I'm not going to need the presentation that I put up there, so we're good. But I would like you to put Amy Fagan's presentation up, please. I want to use one of her slides because hers are a lot better than mine. The Lunar Exploration Roadmap, for those of you that don't know, was put together after a 2006 request from the NASA Advisory Council to develop a long-term roadmap of how we were going to explore the moon. So I want to go to the, I think it was this third from last slide. Just if we can go, the one with the big, that one. I want to keep that one up because now you have a chance to read it. But the important thing here is that that request came in and the first version came out 4 years later, came out in 2010. So a lot of thought went into it and it was put out on the web for public comment and we got a lot of comments and it was revised accordingly. So this has been through a number of iterations and it is architecture agnostic. It doesn't say you have to use Constellation. It doesn't say you have to use Artemis. What it does is it says that the moon is very interesting scientifically in its own right. It's very important to realize that because there's been there, done that BS that keeps going on when we've only landed at 5 sites on the central near side, or is it more than that? 6. Sorry, it's been a long week. 6, yeah, it's all right. I was getting there. Apollo 13 didn't land, right? So, but you know, it's uniquely positioned as an M member. It's a small airless body, and it preserves primary differentiation, and we get a lot of knowledge about the solar system from our moon. But you know, LRO has shown that. And it's now allowed us to ask much more in-depth questions about how our moon works and where we need to go. But the moon is also good for feeding forward to other destinations. And that's what came out in the roadmap. It's not about the moon, it's about using the moon to go somewhere else. So we initially did Mars Feed Forward. And we got a review from the Mars Exploration Program Analysis Group on that feed forward theme. We then expanded that to airless bodies when we thought we were going to go to an asteroid. But the main thing is sustainability. And how do you make it sustainable? And back when we were putting this together, commercial on-ramps was the term that was used in order to get industry and international partners involved with going to the moon to stay this time. So that was all in there, and it's undergone several revisions as Amy went through, but that three-pronged approach shows just how important our moon is to enabling a whole lot more. And so with that roadmap, and I know you've all downloaded it and you've read it cover to cover, right? Now it's pretty dry because we ran out of money. So it does need to be updated. And that discussion is, you know, what I'd like to throw out to everybody is what else needs to be in there? What have we missed? What are the new developments? Is there anything that we could actually retire now? Aha. First question.
Hi,
Answer.
Michelle from NASA headquarters. And a question, when this was shown earlier, just looking at the colors, there's a lot of purple in the high priority robotic only for sustainability. And I just wonder if there's top takeaways that you could speak to or for update that are important to ensure are infused in the robotic only pieces to enable that sustainability. Right, and that's I have no answer to that, but I think that question is one that needs to be addressed in any revision that goes on with this. So it's how do you start, and what do you actually need to the left of that
top line there, that high priority. So that is an important issue. So it seems to me then that not many people have actually looked at the roadmap. So that's why there's an Excel file on there, and it's on one spreadsheet in 2-point font. So, but it's important. So this answers me. How do we then get a version of the roadmap that is digestible? That's another question I want you to think about. How do we do that? How do we get the message out very easily to the community? A lot of effort went into this, and it's sitting there, and you hear Lunar Exploration Roadmap, and not many of you know what we're talking about. So you got homework to do. Brad, are you going to monologue, or are you going to ask a question?
Yeah, I don't know if I know the difference in the, yeah. I usually do monologues, but
okay. All right.
Let me see if I can frame this into a question. What would this chart look if you color coded it or added another dimension somehow to it, extruded it based on the ability to generate the capital needed to get the job done? And specifically, one of the things that we talk about with the commercial, this is the monologue part, the commercial on-ramp is off-budget resources that augment, in partnership with NASA, the ability to execute or deliver.
Right.
And right now, I'm going to cite two examples. One of them being the world's formerly, I think it's second richest guy now, but he was the richest guy for a while, has started his own space program and is now partnered at various levels with NASA to deliver components of this. And another guy is kind of a more cavalier approach to going to Mars, but has a system that he claims is going to land really, really, really big payloads and faster than SLS, on the lunar surface. So there are billionaires stepping up with their own capital and betting on the Moon-Mars system as a future economic frontier, and they're publishing a lot of words about that. I'll try to keep this simple. I did an estimate. There are 1,500 billionaires, and we got 2 of them betting into space. And so if we're in an S curve, we're probably at the 1% mark. If billionaires start getting interested in space as an economic frontier, then some of those components of this chart go exponential. I mean, they're back of the room, whereas NASA's ability is just off the screen.
This chart was, we finished the first version of the roadmap. This chart was a way to sort of trying to visualize it. And what we took away from this, there's a lot of high priority stuff that we came up with to be all inclusive, including heliophysics, astrophysics, in the science side, and Earth observing. So there's lots. The Moon enables a lot of different investigations. So this is a way to do it, but this is what you get for free. Right? We haven't had a chance to really delve down to it, so we need ideas of how to better present this. All right.
Let me ask a simple question. Which parts of this and what pieces of information will create a synergetic effect that pulls capital through it, so that most of this can get paid for by private forces?
I think if you go just one route, I think it needs to be paid by multiple ways of paying for it. So I mean, otherwise you go to the NASA model, the program gets cancelled, it's dead.
Right.
So I think it's you've got a whole new world from when we first did this with regards to the launch systems that are out there, but also with regards to the CLIPS program and the other industries that are available. So I think that's another thing to take back from. We need to update this. So.
Hi, my name is Yvette Gonzales from the International Institute for Astronautical Science. And my question is for sustainability, has it already been attempted, or were you thinking of putting these maybe in the framework of the SDGs to look at the sustainability framework and maybe, yeah, looking at the sustainability development goals.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of reverberation. I can't hear crap right from up here. So.
All right. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's weird.
Ah, okay. No, I was wondering if we've been able to put this. Okay. Wondering if this has been put in the framework of the SDGs, of the Sustainability Development Goals, and is that maybe the exercise we need in order to look at an economic plan?
Thanks. In terms of the SKGs.
SDGs. The development goals, the sustainable development goals for 2030.
I have no idea what they are. So
these are the, are many of you familiar with the SDGs 2030? Okay, and so a lot of the space community, UNUSA, have been talking about how do we use space data, space technology for the international UN development goals for Earth. And that's in terms of how do we use resources, how's our economic viability? And this is typically for how do we help developing nations become more developed. But if we look at that framework, it has all the different aspects of in the future for viable economies. If we fit that into that framework somehow, that might make it establish kind of a market plan, maybe.
As I say, that's a new one on me. So, but that's certainly another thing to take in when we go back to revise the roadmap. I mean, it's been a few years since we did the last revision. So, okay, yeah, wasn't aware of it. So this is good.
That might help with the sustainability piece and making it, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Jesse Kate Schingler, I think that's a great idea. Just to amplify that. I mean, the SDGs are a massive undertaking by the international community that the UN is holding at a global level, and a lot of different communities are mapping their work to that. And I think it's a way to give this community a bit more of a stage on a terrestrial level. So the suggestion I was going to make is that what I hear Clive asking is something that lands more as a kind of information architecture and design question than a content question. There's clearly a huge amount of information in here. And with my programmer hat on, you know, I want to see a website version of this that is not a PDF. I want to see something that's not even an Excel spreadsheet, as living as that might be. I think there's a whole new world of kind of something that's a bit more interactive, that's not even that radical. And so maybe that's a kind of specific action team, or I don't know the exact terminology, but it seems like a small group of people could pretty quickly come up with an interactive design for this that wouldn't involve the most crazy web technologies out there.
Like it, yeah.
Maybe I can try to answer Brad's question a little better than you did. In terms of how we get, you know, investment going. And I think this goes into part of the discussion we were having yesterday, and it was a comment that I made that we don't really seem to have a holistic prospecting program. And I know that management folks don't like the word prospecting, and like Brad, I came originally from the economic geology community, and all the vice presidents and presidents said exploration, but everybody who was actually out in the field exploring was calling it prospecting. So maybe I shouldn't use the word prospecting. But one of the things that we look forward to every winter was reports that came out from the United States Geological Survey and the State of Alaska Department of Geological and Geophysical Surveys, DGGS, because the previous summer they had gone and collected tons of stream sediment data, soil sample data, geologic mapping, and then they released the reports like in February and March, and all the economic community would swarm around those things, rip them apart, dump them into their software to, you know, look for trends and so on and so forth. And there'd be a race, because we would all find the same anomalies to those places, and there would be staking wars, right? Not literally wars, but you know, we would collide with a named Canadian company somewhere, right? So on and so forth. And so that to me really seems like what a key part of what we're doing is we're providing those reports of where the ore bodies are, initial estimates of grade and tonnage, and then they're going to show up. But right now it's all pie in the sky, and it's hope. And you know, like Griffin said, hope is not a very good systems management tool, right? Or an exploration tool either. So I think we really need to get some sort of bring all these disparate pieces together. And I think I said yesterday, we're like either 40 or 80% of the way there, but really map out a coherent, holistic prospecting program, if you'll allow me to use that term. And then we can identify where the resources are and if they're economic or not.
Well, I was just thinking about on that topic, it would need somebody to be kind of in charge of it or to push it forward. I wondered if that's something that we could approach the Space Resources Roundtable group about.
At the Lunar ISRU workshop, USGS offered to do that, but they need a budget. So that is something that they could do. And it's something that we do have the global data sets, but I still think we need the more ground truth. But it would then, those global data sets as they're integrated, would then allow those landed assets a bit more fidelity of where they're going to go.
Just on the near surface stuff, I know there's interest in the SCG, the Society of Exploration Geophysicists, and their near surface leads to participate in these activities.
There we go.
Hi, Jim Caravallo, Off World. I think this exercise to both coordinate, identify and crystallize the opportunities going forward and what the direction should be and how to match capital with those tasks is an exercise we could fully leverage the Luxembourg Space Agency and the Space Resources Initiative. That's a community and environment that is predominantly focused on space resources. I think it's something that the international community can see as a resource, and we're kind of underutilizing the opportunity that exists in Luxembourg as well. So I think we can leverage that together. This is just the kind of exercise that they can take on. It's frictionless, and if resources is the only issue, financial resources is what they have to undertake this sort of exercise rapidly. So I think we should reach out and partner up with that community.
Sounds good. All right.
I think what you're talking about here, this is a bigger, more complex thing than what we dealt with, is you're basically talking about a business plan. So when we were looking to raise capital, we had something like that where we were like, oh, this is all the stuff that we're going to do. This is all the research. This is how it's going to pay off. This is where it's all going to go. And it was more simple than that. But we spent a lot of time doing what everybody's been talking about, getting it, boiling it down, boiling it down, boiling it down. And we thought we had it. And we went to a presentation to some investors, and we gave what we thought was the killer presentation. We had a specific product. We had a specific line to market. We had, here's where the money's going to come back here. It was we thought it was great. Everybody thought it was great. And we presented it, and we're sitting there, and there's a room full of people, and this guy in the front row leans forward. He says, you know, I'm a pretty simple guy. Just tell me what you want to do. After all that work. So and this is a business plan not for an individual company, but for an entire industry, an entire, a whole new world. And I think that's how it needs to be approached, is just as a business plan. And what Brad was talking about, he's looking at all this stuff and he's like, where are you going to go? And it's not just mining, it's energy production, it's communications, it's a huge thing. That's hard to do, but I think if you look at it from the point of view of a business plan, that's just a thought.
There's a couple of things are getting crossed here. The resources aspect is one part of what you see up there. It's a very important part, but it's one part. You go back to what was in the roadmap. There's three themes, and we've got science, we've got feed forward, and we've got sustainability. There are lots of linkages between those themes. One particular investigation could enable many others. So that's the linkages that we were trying to show here. As a business plan, I think part of that is a business plan. But the other part is to show a roadmap as you get more and more capability of what could go on, and that's the long-term aspect of it. If you look at the timeline, it's not done in years. It's done in capability as we build up. And that's another important thing. So that's why I think it's still relevant, but it needs to be updated because of the new developments that we now have. Going back to the Lunar ISRU workshop, the prospecting aspect of it and understanding if the resources or reserves was huge. Came loud and clear, get it. The other aspect of it is markets. Who's going to buy the product? That's not there yet either. So we've got a ways to go with that one. So this is a much bigger picture than just the resources. And initially, this is going to be international collaboration. It has to be. And that's what's been, we've seen the different MOUs that have been signed, or whatever they call them at NASA. But this is happening now. And the thing is that this roadmap needs to be updated. It needs to be brought into the 21st century with what did you say it was, Jonathan? Information visualization. Information visualize, what he said. All right. So again, this is where people can help and contribute to doing the next revision of the roadmap.
Sorry, Clive, just one more quick comment then. So I think to Brad's point, whether it's billionaires or whatever source, the challenge that we face in this community is that we are approaching this whole issue from a solutions perspective, and the solution is looking for a problem to solve. We are passionate about seeing all this happen, and we want to see it for various reasons. But we don't identify, or we haven't identified the need that is catalyzing the provision and enabling of this. And I think what we need to focus on with this roadmap is to identify what are the key catalytic elements at the start of the processes that we can try to connect with needs that exist now or within a 36-month time period. And if none exist, none may really exist that have enough momentum to overcome the inertia of financial resources. We then have to look at those first elements and then identify within those elements, well, what is that gap to overcome the inertia to enable the first element? And that might be a business or commercial element. It might be government capital to bridge the gap. It may even be taking a step back and identifying parallel or earth-based business models that allow 60 to 80% of the technology pathway to be developed to reduce the delta for the space-based implementation. So we have to trace back incrementally to the enabling catalytic action that we can take immediately to move forward one step, even if you have to break down one box into 10 boxes.
I think we're getting close to the end.
Last one from Jerry.
Who?
Jerry.
Oh, I definitely want to echo what you just said. Just to put things clearer and to talk about the business case, we are in a situation where we don't have a transportation system to the moon per se at the moment. We don't have a market or customer. We don't have the knowledge we need for the resources we want to mine, let alone the technologies to do those resource assessments to deliver a product. So our challenge is everything on this map to a certain extent has to be done simultaneously or built up. And on a terrestrial mining situation, each one of those little blocks has a business plan. Okay, I'm going to provide logistics for a mine site. I'm going to provide power. I'm going to provide communications. I'm going to provide maintenance. I'm going to convert the resources. So to some extent, we have to do what you're saying. And that is, as we have USGS or international partners or NASA understand the resources, we work on the technologies, the only way we're going to get investment from future mining companies is if there is an immediate or near-term payback that helps them in a terrestrial situation. And the spin-in, spin-offs need to be continuous. They need to be, you know, growing and a continuous partnership. So I look at this kind of thing as a long-term strategy map. It's kind of like the battle plan. And that battle plan will disappear as a function of, will have to be modified over time, but it gives a framework for how we step forward. So I completely just, support that idea that you have to have a terrestrial market.
All right. So I think we could do a break now.
Yes, we'll do a break.
Okay.
We will reconvene at 11:15. So come back here, not next door, because I think they're having a party over there, but come back here.
We're having a party here too.
We'll talk about the decadal survey.
Yeah, before you go, just one last word about the roadmap. It was held up by Scott Pace as the way forward. So this is important. It is being read, at least by Scott. So this is something that it is a community document. Don't be bashful to volunteer or to send in ideas, because it's a community document. That's how it was put together. And it was then put out to the community for comment, and the same thing will happen.
Yeah, it's held up as an example. A couple of comments. First, for those of you wondering what in tarnation blazes is going on next door, they're doing some sort of conflict resolution role